There is a cancer growing on America's college campuses. An increasing number of students are vocally and at times violently working to suppress free speech and free expression. They've targeted the right.
Evacuated by my security detail and by the police tonight from UC Berkeley. UC Berkeley, of course, being the home of the free speech movement. It's both ironic and sad.
And they've targeted the left.
Because it was the 50th anniversary of something that is legendary on that campus, the Berkeley Free Speech Movement. I guess they don't teach irony in college.
And anyone with the wrong opinion on the wrong subject could be the next one in their crosshairs.
Yeah, fuck free speech.
I'm afraid of having a nuanced opinion because I'm afraid that my opinions and I will be stigmatized.
Yeah, fuck free speech.
There is this issue of what I can say and what I can't say and who's going to dismiss me or demean me for saying it. And that is new in the American discourse.
Yeah, fuck free speech.
In this edition of the Savage Sacktap, I'm talking to my friend Diego about his efforts to create a safe space for free speech on the campuses of America's colleges and universities. Check it out.
You're listening to the Savage Sacktap. It's not a podcast, it's not a half-cast, it's just a quick shot to the balls to help you finish off the week. We're cutting through the bullshit, filling your Friday with rage-fueled logic, and cracking a few jokes along the way. So grab a bag of frozen peas. There's a Savage Sacktap coming your way.
Smooth, lascivious, salacious, outrageous.
A guten tag, guys, gals, and gender non-conforming asexual indigenous peoples. Welcome to a fresh episode of the Savage Sacktap. My usual listeners, this is where I typically go on a 20-minute spiel about a bunch of random shit before the show gets started. Not going to do that this time. Got something way too cool to play for you. Going to jump right into the social media plug for the newcomers, and then we will get right to the chat that I had with Diego. He has got a awesome free speech initiative in the works that I really want you to hear about. I was so fucking pumped to have him come on the show. So anyway, on Facebook you can find us, facebook.com/The Savage Crew, on Twitter @Mike Montone, and on Instagram it is @Gary_Moyler. That's Moyler, Moyler. And now, with no further ado or delay, here it is, Mike and Diego. We're talking free speech.
All right.
You ready to go?
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So, I guess you and I have we have a bunch of shit in common, but probably one of the bigger things is our frustration with what we kind of see as this war on free speech and free expression, particularly on college campuses. So I guess the best way to do this is probably, do you want to just give us the view from 30,000 feet, sort of about what's going on and
Sure.
Who FIRE is and what you hope to achieve?
Sure. So there's a lot of things that are coming my that I'm trying to motivate. I'm trying to move forward. I'm trying to propagate these ideas. One of them is that free speech, first of all, is sacred. Just to address your question really quick, FIRE is Foundation for Individual Rights and Education. They're a free speech advocacy group that protects freedoms on college campuses. So they focus a lot on Title IX abuses, especially with the last administration's DOE, Department of Education's abuse of the Title IX and how it's restricted freedom of speech on college campuses. So, one of the founders even of FIRE, Harvey Silverglate, when I talked to him, he said, I never even imagined that this would live past the 90s. So that's really what FIRE is doing. And then, I've got a project that I want to do that involves them.
Yeah, I guess I want to get to that so we can make sure we can tell people about that. Probably a lot of people who are going to listen to this and watch don't know what you're talking about with regard to Title IX. So there's a couple things that Title IX hits college campuses, and one of them is the way that they handle complaints about sexual assault. And the other is as kind of stretched to include it's almost like a tentacle that's come off of the sexual assault thing is the way they address speech, because there are people who are now referring to speech as a form of violence if it's used in what they call the wrong way.
Right. So that really refers to the way that they changed. The Title IX is pretty much that says like you cannot discriminate based on sex. That is Title IX. But Title IX was reinterpreted by the last administration to say, that anything that includes race, sex, gender is a form of harassment. So really, it completely changed the language, and this is what happens when you narrow out and you broaden whatever a law means and interpret it in the way you want to. When you don't hold true to the definitions, you end up causing chaos, which is what really happened on college campuses.
Yeah, and I guess there have been a few kind of high-profile incidents. Missouri took up months. There was lunacy that we had a journalism professor was attacking a student journalist.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can come up with a more Kafkaesque scenario to surround free speech, free expression, and freedom of the press, I cannot think of it. But there's been more. There's been Yale. You had they call them? I guess they call them masters, or sort of like an administrator was harassed because I think his wife wrote an email about everyone should cool it with getting offended over Halloween costumes.
Right. Yeah, it was that whole cultural appropriation.
This is supposed to be where the best and brightest students, this is our hope for the future. When the aliens come to probe us all, they're the ones we're going to look to for a fucking solution, and they're getting bent out of shape over Halloween costumes. I guess the most recent ones have been Berkeley. It evolved to the point of violence. You want to get into that, because that's been like a cold sore on the lip of the fucking nation.
Right. So if we think of Berkeley as like the home of where the free speech movement originally started, there were students in the local community that were out there in the streets with banners saying free speech, and then you bring in a provocateur, and a couple decades later, and you got a guy like Milo Yiannopoulos, who comes to speak at the UC Berkeley campus. He was invited by the Young College Republicans. And listen, you don't have to agree with the Republican strategy or with the idea of Milo Yiannopoulos. You can disagree. You don't even have to go. But
you could literally stay in your dorm that day.
Yeah, and it would never have done anything, and it would have never propelled him to like fame, because one of the things that gave him fame was the fact that they burned down things, they smashed windows, they protested, they rioted, and ultimately they had to cancel the event just because of how much violence there was. That now all of these speakers, of whom would never mean anything and no one would know who they were, now need protection. But guess what? Now they also have the lens of the media pointed directly at them because of this stupidity. So it's not even working, and it's violent.
Beyond not even working, I think it's become counterproductive, because I know I have like a weird mix of people on my social media news feeds. It's like half veterans and then half people who were went to school at my very liberal arts Northeastern fucking Muhlenberg College. So and I work in media, so liberalism beyond liberalism, and it's amazing the way the two sides look at these things. I know one guy who is an otherwise intelligent person who will accuse anyone who kind of says, hey, Milo should be able to speak, you should be able to do this, or you should be able to circulate a document at Google with your ideas on diversity without having your livelihood taken from you. He will immediately throw them into the alt-right, they're fascists, they're Nazis, but it's...
Right.
Fascism, one of the elements of fascism is controlling speech and oppression. So in their efforts to oppose fascism, these people have resorted to fascism.
Well, I mean, like, this is what we're watching now. It's like we're living in a post-truth world where there's no such thing. Everything is relative. It's really nihilistic, and a lot of what comes from the postmodernist movement. Modernism was the rise of reason and science, and afterwards was postmodernism, and with that was just this idea of that there is no such thing as truth. And so when there is no such thing as truth and everything is relative, the only way to win, if everything is subjective, is through use of force. So what the left has really done with this is commandeered, redefined things, and said that there is no such thing as truth. And now So they've also taught them that words are now forms of aggression that have to be met with macroaggression. So it's this intolerance. It's this I can just label you, paint you in a corner, and then make it okay for me to silence you.
I think there was actually a recent article, I don't know if it was the New York Times, that someone had an op-ed from a psychologist or a psychiatrist that said, yes, because your words can cause symptoms of distress and anxiety in another person, then technically you are causing physical harm with a word, ergo words are a form of violence, which just is absurd because it just it infantilizes actually the person that's being treated as a victim. They're saying, I am so weak, I am so not worthy of human social interaction that you can harm me with a sound that comes out of your mouth, which is just fucking ridiculous, especially at an institute of higher learning.
Yeah, that boggles my mind, dude.
And I guess the other big one that if you don't kind of harp over and obsess over this stuff, you might not even know. Evergreen State University.
That was the worst one so far.
You want to give us sort of the 5 W's on that one for those who don't know?
So on campus, they had declared that there was to be a no whites day.
Yes.
So that whites were not permitted to be on campus.
And if you're thinking to yourself, that sounds incredibly fucking racist, you're right, it is.
Yeah. Congratulations. So if you substitute white with anything else, it's racist. So they said we're gonna have a no whites day, which is opposite of like the no blacks day, where they decided not to show up to show this is what it would be like. This was the other communities asking the white community to not show up. So it was intentionally racist. And when the Professor Weinstein, who's a Bernie bro,
he's
far
the ultimate progressive. I heard him on Rogan's show. He's like the stereotype of the sort of like that wimpy progressive dude, but very soft-spoken, intelligent guy. Yeah.
So the guy's like, he's there with you on like 95% of the things, but he said this is a bad idea and I don't want to participate in it. Well, they pretty much you can always go look at the clips because it's monstrous, and Vice even did a clip with this. So Michael Moynihan interviews him and they show clips of what's going on, but what they did with him was bad, where they cornered him, they called him racist, they pretty much accused him of, they harassed him ad infinitum, but what happened with the principal is way worse.
Was that when they were telling he couldn't even have his hands up when he was because it's a microaggression?
It got worse, though.
And they started laughing at him when he put his hands down, because a lot of this is really about submission. It's not even that you think something is such a good idea that, oh, we need to go in this direction. It's, hey, fuck you, man, I'm gonna bend you to my will.
Yeah, no, this is about social control. This isn't about social justice. They want to tell you how to act and what to say. And I find that to be one of the more bullying things that you can ever do to someone, because like, you might punch someone and that hurts, but if you tell someone how they have to think and how they have to act, that to me is the ultimate form of someone who's truly evil.
Yeah, it's control over it. It's like absurd. Like that's that's what dominatrixes do to their like fucking gimps.
Right.
That's just complete and utter control. Except you're not jizzing in a vinyl suit. You're losing your freedom to express yourself and say, hey, I'm getting fucked over by this or that. It's really it's weakening the structure of our society.
It's one of the things that you have to have in order to have a civil society is free speech.
The ability to redress grievances, I think, is the...
So that's the point where we've got. But what's worse is to go back to that president at Berkeley. They took him into his office. They closed the door. They stood in front of it. They took the keys, and they forced him in there. And when he asked, can I go to the bathroom, they said, hold it.
I saw that clip the other day. You know what? I was watching the Corolla thing in front of Congress, and before that... I guess whichever senator called him up played like a whole clip of those, and that's the one. Like, this is a grown man who is in a leadership position at one of like the most well-regarded universities on the fucking planet, and he is being told by like a teenager that he has to wait to use the bathroom.
It's kidnapping.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
If anyone else had done that, if I had taken you to the room next door and I'd shoved you in there, by law, I'd go to jail for kidnapping. Like, even if I force you into that room, and I don't let you
OJ
leave-
just did a fucking decade
Right.
for exactly that. It's fucking ridiculous that this is even acceptable.
But if you do it under the veil of social justice, there's no repercussions.
It's incredible. They make it very difficult to challenge, because when you challenge it, what they will respond with, and what is, as soon as they respond with it, it's just legitimized in everyone's eyes. They say, "Oh, you don't want students of color to be happy, or indigenous students, or Mexican students, whatever, to be happy and safe. You're a racist. You're a bigot. Your speech is hate speech." And once a label like that is applied, it's very difficult to insert. If the public doesn't pay close attention to this,
Right.
they get the 30-second blip on the screen. So once you're branded and you kind of carry that scarlet letter,
Yep.
even if it's been handed to you by a raving lunatic whose prefrontal cortex isn't even fully developed,
Right.
that's it. That is your reputation now for the rest of your life.
Right. So you get branded, and that's a perfect verbiage or usage of the word is the scarlet letter, is that people have a cursory glance's worth of understanding towards different topics. They're not willing to go down the rabbit hole and actually figure things out. So they try to understand things holistically, but they don't analytically understand something or the consequences of that. And what happens is, now, if you've been given this is right out of Rules for Radicals with Saul Alinsky, this was the point, is that an ad hominem attack now is you're starting off 1 foot back. But I'm saying that we should challenge that idea, because one thing I do is when they start off with an ad hominem, I know I have pretty much free reign to keep swinging, and I'm not worried, because one, it's the intellectual version of like me fighting a 5-year-old. So now I know that if the first thing you're leading with is a charge of racism or sexism, then I'm more than happy to destroy your argument in the next 50 seconds. So I actually look at this as like, oh, like you came to this fucking battle with the water gun. So it's like, perfect.
To anyone with like even a hint of pragmatism in their blood, if you come at someone with it, well, you're a racist, because it's almost like evidence that you do not have a lot of weight behind your attack, and now I can just use cold logic to pick it apart and kind of fuck you up.
Yeah.
So that's what's been happening on those are sort of the I guess the highlights of what's been going on. But Fire has a rating scale, because there are kind of smaller things that happen too. There are campus newspapers that get shut down over satirical articles. There are people who get accused of a microaggression for holding the door for a woman. Just all sorts of kind of absurdities abound. So Fire has a rating scale.
Yeah, so they have a green, yellow, and red rating scale, and red is just atrocious, yellow is not good, and then green means that they've strike down every speech code that they have on campus, which should be every college. I mean, the fact that there's a yellow it makes me want to scream. The fact that there's red means that something has to be done.
Red is a problem. Yellow, I could see how you could land on yellow because of a couple misguided initiatives by a campus administrator. There's still kind of a parental complex because you have 18-year-olds. I feel like you can kind of put that within the range of human error and just say, point it out, and we'll work on it.
And that's how they get by, but then eventually yellow turns to red.
Yeah.
And it goes back to that Lenin quote, which I think is the point, is like the goal of socialism is communism. The goal of starting to restrict free speech is to end.
It's to take it to its
the logical conclusion. Just get rid of it.
Extreme.
Yeah.
Sam Harris is a big fan of that phrase, as well as the phrase unpack.
Right.
He says that fucking all the time.
Yeah. It's good though.
It is.
I love Sam.
He's a cool motherfucker. I like when he fucked up Ben Affleck on Bill Maher.
Oh, good.
That's awesome.
I think that's what made him even more famous and good, because that's what changed guys like Dave Rubin, who are now out there on YouTube, and it's completely changed their worldview. I mean, we're talking about a guy like Dave Rubin. If you don't know him, he's got a great show. I would say he's like the protege of Larry King. And he's phenomenal. He's a good interviewer. He lets people speak, and he gets people with different ideas to come and actually gives them a shot to show that there's nuance to these arguments. And people like him were turned on by when they saw Sam Harris get yelled at by Ben Affleck.
That was the most. I think Affleck might have he had something. I know they drink on Mars' show. Like those coffee mugs are all filled with booze.
Right.
And Bill smokes a lot of weed. I don't know if Affleck was yacked up because if you go back and watch the clip, there's like this fucking edge to him. Like he's like slamming the table. He's like, that's just racist. This is bigoted. Like, and Harris is just like, dude, we're fucking a bunch of rich people sitting on HBO having a talk over a couple drinks. Like,
right.
Just fucking chat with me, bro.
Yeah.
So, obviously we're Jersey guys.
Right.
You want to, I guess the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a couple steps. So you're focusing heavily on schools in New Jersey.
Yep. So that's the movement I'm pushing towards right now.
Cool. What kind of fire ratings are we looking at around the state?
Okay, so most of them are red. So if you think about Kane, if you think about NJIT, I don't know if NJIT is private, but if it's not, it has a red rating anyway. I don't even know if they bother rating private schools, but maybe they do.
I think they do, yeah, because I looked at a bunch of mine from my old athletic
Princeton
conference.
Or something
it was like Dickinson and stuff, so
right.
Dickinson's was fucking atrocious.
Yeah, and you can look up every case that they've had that has been perpetuated on certain campuses. So I can look up Montclair State University, I can see Montclair State, I can see all the times that they were needed to be called, and they break down every time that they've been called or had to step in to defend a student on Montclair's campus. So they're very good at what they do, and that's why I want to get them involved, and hopefully even ADF. But mostly I want to do fire. I think that they're the most nonpartisan.
ADF is?
Alliance Defending Freedom.
Okay.
They're another free speech organization. They've got a little bit to like a Christian bent to them.
Okay.
So they focus a lot on religious liberty, which I support. I want people to be free to practice.
This battle makes for strange bedfellows. I think Milo Yiannopoulos is involved in a suit alongside PETA and some other very liberal organization about advertising on Washington, D.C.'s subways or metro lines. It's just, you wind up, I find myself defending the Westboro Baptist Church. Fuck it, who the fuck else? Anyone, you can meet a bad idea with a good idea, but if you suppress if you let the people in power now suppress ideas, that sets a precedent that anyone down the line can suppress ideas. And then when your guy isn't in power, it's going to be your idea that's getting suppressed. And then you're going to be like, hey, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And people are going to be like, oh, well, remember? And you're going to be like, well, it's different now.
Well, there's two things there that I want to focus on. One is that you said... you mentioned the pendulum swinging, and also that ideas shouldn't be cast out, because I think that makes a fetish. So the moment you say something shouldn't be said, it won't be said in front of your face, but it'll start to grow under the shadows. That's when it starts to rear its ugly head, is when the pendulum swings backwards. So even some of the people now today, some of the biggest proponents for restricting freedom of speech, period, hate speech is not love speech, which is funny because who's ever had to protect love speech? At the same time, it was the Yiddish-speaking socialists who were jailed, and it was that term, you shouldn't yell fire in a theater, that goes along with the Supreme Court case. It was Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes who said they arrested Yiddish-speaking socialists for protesting the war, this World War I. And when it came up to the Supreme Court case, they said, well, what is a good example of being able to restrict free speech? Where does free speech go too far? And Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes said, yelling fire in a crowded theater. But that was actually socialists who were jailed for protesting the war. And now it's modern day socialists who are complaining about the idea that somehow hate speech is not love speech, not realizing that, like, in potentia, they're placing a rod against their own back.
Yeah, no one has to protect speech that's popular. It's the things that are difficult are the things that need to be heard. And the other, I think, the massive piece of this that almost no one wants to even take with, you have a solution to speech that you don't like. don't listen to it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand this need to control what other people want. Because that's what it really is on college campuses. Like, because for me, when I used to hear about people being censored, it would be like, Howard Stern or Opie and Anthony for having, lesbians scissoring each other on the air in the studio or whatever. Like, that was, but forever, that was really like what I thought of censorship. It was like, they don't want people to have fun by saying dirty things. And it's
right.
All of a sudden, we're in this information age where anyone can communicate in any way, but I have Trigglypuff screaming, "Keep your hate speech off my campus," at a guy who is, wearing nerd glasses and speaking quietly behind a podium. It's fucking nuts. Like, Trigglypuff didn't have to fucking be there.
Right, exactly. But this goes back to making words violence. You've now set the precedence that and this is truly what they mean when they say hate speech. Hate speech is anything that I disagree with. So it's like, it's not something that is truly hateful. Like, if I said, "You fucking piece of shit Mexican," right?
Yeah.
That's pretty hateful. It's not that. What they mean by hate speech is that your political views, your philosophical views, your bent is offensive to me. It is hateful because you hate these people. Therefore, you should not be able to speak about these ideas. So it's like, I don't agree with Donald Trump, but I wouldn't try to silence Donald Trump. So I can't imagine ever even being in a position where I would say to someone who likes Donald Trump, "Hey, don't speak." I can't even imagine doing that to a Bernie Sanders guy and saying, "You don't have the right to talk about your ridiculous, stupid ideas."
Yeah. And for a multitude of reasons, one being that even the Trump people and the Sanders people, as much we may disagree with them on a million things, eventually they're going to have a good idea about something, or there will be elements of their ideas that are in fact good, and we can draw from those. But if we bar the extremes from the conversation, we lose a little bit of our own ability to think outside of the box. And then beyond that is that if an idea is overwhelmingly stupid,
right,
and you point out how stupid it is,
right,
without saying that all the people who follow the guy, like, if you say all Trump voters are idiots for voting for Trump, you're going to breed resentment, and they're going to say, "Well, fuck you, I'm voting for Trump even harder." But if you say, "You guys aren't idiots, but what Donald Trump just said is idiotic," you can open the door to a conversation. You may not change opinions, you may not change minds, but you're not going to create this sort of, well, now I'm going to do it because fuck you.
Right. So then you get an angry mob, and the angry mob turns around, and what a surprise, it's not in your favor. And that's why they say sunlight is the best disinfectant. Bring these ideas out and let them fight. But they don't want to do that. Like, they don't want you to have the ability to even make an argument. Here's the reality of it is, they've taken over the institutions. They've taken over college campuses. They've taken over the media. They've taken over Hollywood. They own the narrative. So now they don't want it challenged. It's always, this idea has always been like, well, freedom for me, but not for thee. Yeah. It just shows what kind of person these people are that say, well, I believe that my ideas should be championed, but you don't even have a right to defend against yours.
And it's interesting that you should mention that they've taken over the institutions, because now that they have the institutions, it's like looking at any other sort of dictatorial regime. Then they begin cannibalizing each other for not being hardcore enough. On the tech end, first it was YouTube blocking Jordan Peterson, and it was Twitter kicking off Milo and Anthony Cumia. But now it's Google firing an engineer who wrote... Have you read the... Easy read, 10 pages if you haven't. It literally starts off with, "I embrace diversity and think it is a fantastic idea. Here are my ideas for how we can take advantage of like biological or what are perceived biological truths to improve diversity without hurting anyone. Oh, by the way, did I tell you how much I love diversity?" And they fired it. He loved diversity in the wrong way. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Where was the Hollywood you mentioned? Hollywood's a fantastic example. the Academy Awards, the Oscars, are run entirely by Hollywood. There is no outside influence. It's just Hollywood.
Yeah.
And they were all furious with each other because they weren't giving enough wealthy minorities golden statues for pretending to be other people while a camera was rolling. It's just fucking insane. And that became a national issue. That became like a thing that was important.
Yeah, right.
Hashtag Oscars so white became and it was a fun hashtag to fuck around with on Twitter. Are you on Twitter yet?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter.
Nice. All right, we gotta follow you. The last time we spoke, you weren't there yet. I was like, Twitter is where you were meant to. I think Twitter and YouTube are your best places, by the way. Yeah, I think
all right.
for what you're pushing. I mean, Facebook is cool, but I think a lot of people and even for what I do, it's difficult. I'll get a lot of people will message like, "Hey, I liked what you did, but I cannot click the like button because people will see that I like, whatever recent horrible thing you put up about John Benet Ramsey or whatever."
Yeah.
But YouTube is kind of where where the kind of discussions you want to, like, what's his name, like Stefan Molyneux?
Molyneux.
All those guys, they're big YouTube guys. Like, I think you could do very well on there. But yeah, it's become now a battle to see who can be the most offended, who is the most virtue signaling, like who is the most aghast at what was just said.
It's the oppression Olympics, you know. It's a race to see who's more oppressed.
And it's also like. And it's a targeting whoever on the, like, what's her name? Tommy Lahren. She she tweeted a joke, I guess, yesterday about how if we do go to war with North Korea, we're fucked, because she's looking at millennial men who can barely lift a suitcase into the overhead. And all of a sudden, it's amazing, liberal Twitter ran to the defense of the military, which I've never seen happen before.
That is weird.
And has been talking about how it's millennials that just fought a two-theater war and everything, which it's a sliver of millennials who just fought a two-theater war.
1% of millennials.
And a lot of motherfuckers who fought in that war were also Gen Xers and older, so suck my ass, Twitter. But they have that as like one of their top trending topics. I'm sure that is a thing that most of America does not give a fuck about.
Right.
But they control now what is trending. So instead of letting sort of the market decide in that realm, they just put it out there. Oh, this is going to rub the alt-right or conservatives the wrong way. Yeah, let's put it at the top.
Right. So now they're dictating what's actually popular or trending, and like these ideas are stupid. So I say, you know what, you want to make them trend. I'm still with the idea that, like, let's push these ideas out. Let's put it out there. Let's let people debate it. And it's like the more popular we make it, the easier it is to, you know what I mean, to fucking kick the legs out from under.
Oh, it's hibachi. Put the meat on the table and we'll chop it up right in front of you. Like, let's fucking see it.
These are intellectually lazy arguments, and you said something that, you know, I wanted to talk on, is that it's pretty much cultural Marxism that's existing. Is like, before, back then, they used rich versus poor.
Yeah.
That failed. So what
now
they did
privileged versus non-privileged.
Right, yeah. Oppressed versus oppressor. And that's what's created these class warfares, is like, well, I'm a woman. Yeah, but you're a white woman. So I'm a black woman. Well, I'm a Muslim woman. You know, but I'm a midget and a woman. So now it's like, they're splintering and
Which is funny, because you know who did this. This is what the Nazis did.
Yeah.
The Nazis and, like, slavery era Southerners did this. They ranked you by what you were,
right,
and created, it's essentially a social caste system based on ethnicity and gender. But the Nazis did it with how Jewish you were,
right,
and in the South, it was essentially how black you were.
Yeah, it's you're prejudging someone based on their, you know, their skin, their, you know, their gender, their race, their ideology, their disability. You're literally prejudging someone. That's the definition of prejudice. Yeah. You know, you're the one being bigoted. Like, you know, this soft bigotry of lowered expectations.
Everything they are supposed to hate.
Right.
And that's, the other, you mentioned that. I love that term, the soft bigotry of low expectations. Bill Maher uses it in reference to Islam all the time. But it's really, you infantilize, you turn the person who is being victimized in the scenario is turned into like an intellectual fucking, you know, midget, because they can't take hearing something about their group badly. You know, do a Google search for white males and then click like news or whatever, and you will literally see just headline after headline of the reason why white males are the problem. Hey, white males, it's not okay to do XYZ. Why white males need to be like, it's just fucking and it's always, they always go back to the, oh, whiny white male, now who's the snowflake? But it's, the problem is that you're telling us, you're telling us that, oh, everyone is equal, but then you're turning around and saying, well, everyone is, except we're going to get back at you for shit that, like, I come from Italian Americans, like, we were the bitch when my people came over here. Like, my great-grandfathers were stonemasons who toiled to build, like, churches and buildings that they were then not allowed inside of. Like, it's fucking,
it's amazing.
Like, I didn't, you know, I can assure you that there was not a lot of privilege going on in the Montone family's background. Like, my dad's father was a mechanic. Right. My dad put himself through, took out his own loans to go to college. Like, it's not, we do not, if there was a white male conspiracy going on, I was left out of it.
Yeah, right. And I think that's the stupidest fucking thing you can do. And here's why it matters so much more past this, is like, this is why I get offended at the yellow light ratings as the same way as I do when they say, well, white people, like, let's say for some reason white people just had an advantage, which I disagree with. It's impossible to say all these white people have an advantage. Look at Polish people under the rule of communism. They're white. What's their issue?
Well, even from the start of America, I mean, there were plenty of white people who came over here as indentured servants, as just broke motherfuckers on ships. You name it.
It's because on principle I disagree with this. Is the reason that I fight it whenever I see it. It's the reason that I'll defend a communist as much as I find it despicable. I will defend the communist right to speak, even though it will make my blood curdle. I will defend him more than I would defend someone. I defend any attack on free speech, and I defend any abuse of injustice. And it's like, well, it's white racism. It's like, yeah, okay, so you just said, you gave it an adjective, but you really told me what it was about. Racism. I'm against racism, period, as a blanket general rule.
Across the board.
So it's like, when you're being racist, like, you don't have the moral high ground here. I just want to let you know, I find you to be despicable and a bad person. You're literally attacking someone on the basis of their race. There's nothing more bigoted than that. Like, I go after those people the same way I would if some dude was like, those fucking spics, you know, and I'm a spic. So it's like...
You self-identify as a spic.
Yeah, Spanish power and control, man.
That's exactly, and that's, you know, Italians refer to themselves as wops all the time. You know, it's just, it's...
And I miss that, dude. I love being able to be like, you fucking spic, and be like, you dago wop, motherfucker.
That was the best thing about the Marine Corps, was your closest friends were probably of a different nationality, and you would point that out and shit on it like crazy at every chance you got.
And it was so beautiful. It was not only just like, you dumb, dirty Patty Mick, you know what I mean? Like, you used to bust on the Irish guy. But, like, literally just, like, where you were from. Like, you inbred hillbilly you dumb, greasy, Jersey piece of shit.
Yeah, you fucking New York City, like, you New York City faggot. Like, I remember one of my drill instructors called me an arrogant little faggot once, and I still think it's one of the funniest lines I've ever heard. Because minus the faggot part, he was absolutely right. Fuck it. But, all right, so we've kind of, like, established the problem. We've explained what fire does. What are the next steps for you? What do you play? You told me you were looking at an event in October. I'm assuming that's not the only thing. What's that going to be about, and then where do you kind of see this going?
Okay, so first, it's not ready, but the Facebook page is available. It's called Fight for Free People. So what I want to do is I want to gather, actually, congratulations to Montclair State. They just formed a new YAL chapter, Young Americans for Liberty.
Okay.
So what I'd like to do is hopefully get Young Americans for Liberty to co-sponsor an event with student veterans, sororities, fraternities, alumni, and local businesses that might be interested. And what I want to do is I want to invite FIRE to talk and tell people, tell the community, tell students, tell alumni, not only what is happening, but what are the consequences of limiting free speech. Once they talk to these people, it not only like energizes and and mobilizes a bunch of people who, one, maybe never saw a problem, and then two, now understand the problem. But what it would also do is that at the end of the night, what I want to do is I want to get all those student chapters, alumni, local businesses come together. We write Fire a check. We say, we donate to you because we believe in your cause. Fire sends a letter to Montclair State that says, hey, by the way, just so you know, they donated to us and not to you, and it's because of your restrictive speech codes. So take it down if you don't want to be sued.
Money talks, does it not?
Yes, it does. And so if they refuse to take down their speech codes, the next thing that happens is that they send them another letter that says, we're going to sue you. They sue. Now, here's the thing. The beauty about Fire is that they're on the right side. So what Montclair is doing is actually unconstitutional, and this is why it has never won a court case. Fire has never lost, ever. And it's because it is unconstitutional to restrict the freedom of speech on a public campus. On a private, there's not a lot that they can do. And it's still wrong, but there's nothing legally that you can do. Now, the goal is to get Montclair speech codes completely gone within a year from now. I want to do it sooner. I want to do an event in October where we'll have people. Now, my problem is that I am the grassroots movement, so I'm the one doing media. I'm the one trying to find out how the hell to build a website, and I have no idea how to build a website.
Dude, just use WordPress.
Yeah?
Yeah, it'll do it all for it, and for like a couple bucks you can buy the domain name, so it won't be a .wordpress, it'll just be whatever, freespeechoncampus.com.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be nice. And so I'm but I'm learning now.
Yeah.
Because I'm the guy that's doing everything. So I've been on the phone for the past week, just calling people, talking to people, telling them about this.
You said you have a Young Americans for Liberty chapter on Montclair now?
Yep.
Fucking enlist some of those kids. Because they're all tech savvy. They have they're on fucking Snapchat, Twitter, and everything else. They live on this shit. If you want to spread the word, those are the kids to talk to.
Yeah, well, the problem is that I helped start the chapter.
Okay.
So I know the people in it. So we gotta get more people in it. So we're gonna be tabling as soon as Montclair State starts, but we are already getting like the toolkits and everything to go get people in the movement. And not only that, but student veterans, sororities, fraternities. But
if you can get a especially if you can get a frat or anyone who's got like a house on campus, just tell the kids to grab a couple kegs and some burgers one day. Be like, hey, come on down. We'll give you beer and food, and just let us give you. It's pretty much the way a religious cult does it, but with far better intentions.
Wow. Okay. See, but like this is like my learning period. It's like I'm trying to figure all this out. But the goal is not only to get Montclair State's speech codes done away with, absolved, but I want to do Kane. I want to do NJIT, and eventually, hopefully, it's to get enough students, alumni, maybe chapters, whoever, to testify before New Jersey state legislators and tell them, listen, by the way, to the Congress of New Jersey, they're restricting our right to speak freely on college campuses. It's egregious, and I find it unconstitutional. Make sure that they never do this again. And what I would like to do is to say that, like, hey, we came together. We came from different ends. You know what I mean? I will work with a communist if he truly believes in free speech. And we fought to make New Jersey a state that appreciates and fights for the freedom of expression. So that's a big goal, and it's heavy. It's a lot of work, dude.
I think this is a good area to, like, the New York, New Jersey area, because as much as you get ripped for the liberal coastal cities, there are pockets of sort of like, more conservative, like especially through like Monmouth County. Staten Island's a very conservative place,
right.
And they're like, I keep going back to the 2016 election with this. It's when Donald Trump was saying things that people were freaking out about whoever women that reporter he did that fucking impersonation of. Every time they went nuts, all the fucking Goombas out in Staten Island and the fucking Irish Riviera guys down in Monmouth County all fucking cheered, because it was, whether you liked what he was saying or not, there was an honesty to it, and a lot of this is rooted in the sort of social Marxist movement on campus. It just feels so fucking disingenuous sometimes.
It does.
Like that's what I love Jordan Peterson,
He's
the
great.
Canadian guy.
Fascinating.
Like he's just a fucking nerd who doesn't want people telling him what to say, and all of a sudden he's at the forefront of this free speech battle because he won't conform to Canada, but everyone sucks Justin Trudeau's dick over everything.
Yeah.
That they love suppressing speech and free ideas up in like he is the fucking. It's almost like someone put the fucking devil on earth and they put it inside of him because he's like a good-looking, charismatic guy.
Yeah.
So he plays well to cameras. It's just the opposite of what Donald Trump is, like this soft-spoken, friendly Canadian, and Donald's like this fake tanned, brutish dickhead from Queens.
Right.
And so people look at Canada and they're like, "Oh, I want this for America," but you don't. There's speech code up there now. If you misgender someone, is it a civil or is it a criminal offense?
It's a criminal offense.
It is illegal to call someone so if. And there, you can identify as, I think, what is it, like 50 some odd?
Oh God, who knows?
There's, from the normal ones that we know, he, she, there's they now. Zer is the Z-I-R. If you didn't know, there are people who want you to refer to them as Zer. And like even the LGBTQ acronym is now, I think it's LGBTQI, and there's 2 A's.
Yeah. LGBTQ
intersectional, asexual,
LGBTQIAAP plus.
Jesus fucking Christ!
Yeah, that's within a year we've gotten to.
It's just fucking ridiculous. Like it's almost to the point where we're gonna have to abandon this out of sheer convenience because we're not gonna have time to parse out who. Either that, or we're gonna have to go to some sort of name tag system.
Well, this is what I think is going to happen. The left. And this is a problem, and not to say that the right is right or that they have great ideas. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that the left is losing the culture war, and that's a weird step because normally they're the progressive kind.
Yeah.
But they're losing the culture war, and that people are seeing like, wait, these ideas, taken to their logical conclusions, are stupid. They're bad. They're harmful. They're prejudiced, and they've made me say and think and do some horrible things.
Yeah.
So it's like. I think they're losing, and I think that the more that they splinter, the more that they break off, good. Because eventually only the extreme radicals willing to bomb a building filled with white people are the only ones that are going to be left.
I really hope it doesn't get to that. I won't.
Same.
I don't, because it's almost become like this acceptable. It's like people almost wear it as like a badge of pride now. Who is the most progressive and extreme? Like we were talking about Hollywood getting mad at each other for not giving trophies to black actors. Like,
right.
Is that, once you start running out of what are they gonna do next? And it's like, I almost feel like it's become like glamorized. Like they say, like fashion and things are cyclical. It almost feels like there are these professors on campus who were, they were radicals in the 70s or whatever, and they're tenured professors, and they're there now, and they've just been sort of feeding this shit to their students. And the kids are like, when you're 19 years old, you emulate your authority figures, the people you look up to. Like if you're playing football, you emulate your football coaches. If you're if you're a PFC in an infantry platoon, you emulate your squad leader. Like your brain's not fully formed yet, so you look to your authority figures for this is what I'm supposed to be like. So they're looking to these professors, and they're getting either one of two things. They're getting guys who are pushing back and saying this is ridiculous. Why would you want me to call you what? Yeah. But then they have it feels like a bigger chunk, or at least a more vocal chunk, who are saying, no, it's right for you to demand that he refer to you as like the fucking fabulous Mr. Fox in class, even though your name is Bill Smith. Like that seems like what's going on. Like they're saying, like, that's what we would have done in the 60s, man. Like we live in such a comfortable world. There shouldn't be things left to resist.
Right. That is one that's extremely accurate. Like I don't have anything to say about that. Like, what I would add is that when you don't when you don't have food, you have one problem. When you have food, when you have food, you have 1,000 problems.
Yeah.
And this is the horrible part about comfort, is we live in such a beautiful, comfortable country where even the poorest of the poor, which we should help, but even the fact that I qualify that is stupid. See what I mean? This is what I mean when they take over your brain.
Yeah.
Fuck that. That now everything is like, now there's nothing to fight, so we're just making up shit. We're creating, dragons that we're supposed to go fight that don't actually exist. We're creating problems that aren't there just to fight something.
Is it like there's like an evolutionary cause behind it? Like you got to keep your skills sharp. So
yeah.
Hey, find something to drill again.
Yeah, it's a paper tiger, man.
That's why. That's an entire different conversation that we probably need a lot more weed for or liquor for. These kind of impulses that are plugged into us for like what we do as humans, and then what happens to them when we live in a world where comfort is almost guaranteed. Like, even if you're doing badly in the United States right now, unless you are like the lowest of the low, you're still doing better than people who are doing badly elsewhere, even doing well elsewhere.
Yeah, the lowest 10% of our country kick the living shit out of anybody in Mumbai. You know what I mean?
You go to for those. I get a nice military. You want a little more of this?
Yeah.
Split the last drop in half here.
Thank you.
Anytime, sir. Yeah, this shit was awesome. This is the Jack Daniel's single barrel select for anyone who's
Well, cheers, man.
groggy. Yeah, it's dude, always good recording with you, sir. We got to do this more often.
I know. It's always fun too.
I like that you guys did a podcast out of the bar last time.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That's fucking cool. I want to talk to you about that after we're done here. But
yeah.
I was gonna say, anyone who's been on like patrol in like a place like Iraq or Afghanistan, when you stop in at the home of like leaders, sheikhs, tribal leaders, whoever you're dealing with, what they live in would be considered like ghetto as fuck over in the U.S. So yeah, when we talk, like, part of the reason that it feels like this is going on is because there's just nothing left.
Right.
Like there's nothing left to our next problem. Like, really is like the aliens coming to try to probe us to death. Like, we're getting threatened by by North Korea. Like, really?
Right.
Really? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, exactly. And this is one of the things, like, I went recently to a picnic for ex-political prisoners in Cuba. And one of the things that they told me is that the oppression that you're starting to feel, where it's like the society is going along with it. Because in Cuba, they would stop, they'd pull a van to the side of the road, they'd get up on top, they'd start grandstanding and say, "You hate communism, don't you?" And this is back in the idea where, communism was this beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And they would grandstand. And now we have a culture that's pinned to fight for the government, and we have a government that continues to grow. And a lot of Cuban political prisoners, and these are people that have literally told me to my face, they're like, they put the bayonet in me so far that it broke the bone.
Jesus.
Like, that's 20-something years in prison. And they said America is starting to look a lot like what Cuba was feeling like.
I think that's a good way, because we need, for people who don't really know, we should kind of connect that and qualify why you're talking about. You're talking about taking things to their logical extremes.
Yep. That's
what you're saying. What's going on campus now? Because you remember, if you're a college student now, and like we said, Yale and Berkeley recruit, some of the on paper smartest fucking kids. Those are going to be the media execs, the Supreme Court justices, the lawmakers, the people who make decisions to keep this machine running smoothly are the ones who are now at these really good colleges in America, and they're not only are they having their ideas filled with these thoughts, they're having those thoughts validated by by any time a professor says, or an administrator says, well, you know what, we would rather you please keep the Trump signs out of the window, or please, I'm sorry, we have to disinvite Milo Yiannopoulos. Anytime they do that, they're having their worldview validated, and they're going to go out within months, and the seeds are going to be planted. They already are. Let's be honest. The BuzzFeed's Mashables,
right?
Mike, Refinery 29. These are, they're all blogs, but they're major media influencers that
now
are
things like that. Yeah,
they are millennial run, and they have a hard left angle, and not like a Chuck Schumer. For as much as you might not like him, you can sit down and have an intelligent debate about something with Chuck Schumer. You might not like his answers, you might not, but at the end, he's going to shake your hand and he's going to say, hey, look, we agree to disagree. Let's move forward with what's best for the country. What we're seeing out of these sort of hard left media outlets is a shift already towards social Marxism, and if the fire keeps getting fueled from the bottom on college campuses, if you keep pushing people out with those opinions, it's going to be a progressive creep, it's just a takeover, and then eventually it infects the entire national consciousness to the point where anyone with a conservative viewpoint is you're an outsider. You're shunned. You shouldn't even speak.
Right, and this is like another version of like McCarthyism.
It is.
That's what they're doing.
It's neo-McCarthyism, essentially. But you're going after guys on the other end of the political spectrum. Chelsea Handler's tweet the other day.
I would punch her in the mouth.
And especially, I did this on my my weeknight segment, Booze and News, that I do on Facebook Live.
I love it.
I was talking about it. She has done ethnic jokes forever, just ridiculous things about Angelina Jolie's adopted Asian kid, etc., etc. And then she, a comedian who makes her living on saying things that you're not supposed to say, tweets that a couple of guys should be jailed for giving a joke Nazi salute. Like, that just could not drip with more hypocrisy. And I don't think she believes it. Like, I think if you asked her in conversation, but just based purely on the jokes she's made, I think if you asked her, like, if her and Bill Maher were having a conversation and he said, hey, Chelsea, can you believe they would jail these guys for making a joke? She'd be like, the fuck that's ridiculous. But I think on a platform like Twitter, where you kind of get kudos for saying the right thing and virtue signaling through a situation, it's become such an easy way to score these social brownie points, is to just nobody likes the school bully, and everyone cheers when the school bully gets his ass kicked. So let me just fling some shit. Sort of the to the J.K. Rowling.
Here's where you could be right, and I don't know, because it's hard to like make social theory. But look at Sarah Silverman. Like, she was a really funny, really dirty comic, and now there's comics out there right now that are putting out articles that saying you shouldn't say this, and it's like that was completely,
that was your bread and butter before.
Yeah, it's saying the things that you shouldn't say, and now they're saying you shouldn't say this, and it's like, whoa, like, who are you? You know what I mean?
I think the worst thing you could say ever about comedy is that there's a place where the line should be the job of comedy is to continue pushing the line. I swing and miss. Half the time I do this show, I do a comedy show where I say things that are so outlandish and horrible.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily believe them, but they're kind of, it's fun to say the bad thing.
Yeah, it's funny.
It helps you deal with the bad or painful thing too. Like, it's an important thing. Like, if something shitty happens, like 9/11 jokes are part of the fucking healing process. Like, and up and down the line, any bad thing can be dealt with.
I think that
with humor.
I think that is the beauty of humor. It's like a psychic salve. You know what I mean? Like, you can use it to bring communities together, to laugh at something horrible, because it's a way of saying, this happened, dude.
When someone says the thing that everyone in the darkest corner of their mind is thinking, and it elicits a laugh from the group, that is an immediate, that immediately connects everyone, because then it's like, oh shit, that guy is kind of like, we don't agree about a lot of stuff, we don't have a lot in common, but that guy's kind of like me, That kind of fucked up thought that I had, he had it too. All right, maybe we can discuss this. And it's really disheartening to see a comedian of all people,
Right.
and again, ones who have made kind of their bones pushing the line and saying those things you shouldn't say, to then turn around and be like, oh no, maybe we should. No, fuck you. We don't draw. We're not drawing the line. No line.
Right. No, I agree with you, but I really do think that they're losing, because once you lose humor, you lost.
Yeah.
And I feel like, who's funny? The trolls on the right. Like, I don't agree with what
But
they
they're
do.
fucking hilarious.
But they are funny
They're
as
great.
shit. Guess who's not funny? Stephen Colbert. What is it? Seth Meyers, right?
Yeah, I don't even watch Myers. I catch a little bit of Colbert once in a while.
And what's that? Trevor Noah. They don't make me laugh at all.
Yeah,
and I can't watch it because it's awkward now.
Trevor Noah's interesting. His stand-up comedy is pretty subversive. He does a lot of race stuff and shit.
Yeah.
He got put in a weird position where following Jon Stewart, whether you agree with Jon Stewart's politics or not, following him as a comedian is very difficult because he's a very smart, talented guy.
Yep.
I think him and Anthony Cumia got into a fight at like Caroline's or some shit the other night.
No shit.
That didn't hit the press too. It was just like an argument where each of them both called the other a fucking asshole.
I can see that.
It's just funny because Cumia was hanging out with like Artie Lang and that crew, and Jon Stewart was with like Aziz Ansari. I can't fucking stand that guy.
Ugh.
That guy. The fact that he's a famous comedian drives me nuts.
I know.
I'm gonna say normal things in a weird voice and get paid millions for it. Fuck you, man.
I'm gonna talk about Kanye. Kanye.
Yeah.
Something.
Fuck. Oh, life is millennial, man. Millennial life is hard, man. Okay, pay me $1 million. I suck.
Well, like this is what I mean too. It's like, have you seen Chelsea Handler's stand-up special? If you say no, it's okay because it's horrible.
I watched. I catch her. My sister.
10 minutes.
My sister used to read her books back when all she talked about was drinking vodka and having sex. I'd flip through a couple of those. And I was like, she's got some like funny raunchy stories. And then like I've seen her on Mar before, and like, she can off the cuff. She's a wisecracking. Like I feel like I could drink with her and get along fine. I don't know why. It's almost like people have this other kind of social media or like press presence.
I think it's who they've become. Like they're actually becoming these monsters.
They've drank the Kool-Aid, basically. Maybe they started out just saying, "Hey, Trump's a douche because I'm a chick and I don't like guys who talk about grabbing pussy.
Fair enough.
Let me oppose." But they've almost like the opposition to everything that stands for has become their identity now.
They've shifted so far in the past 2-3 years that it's ridiculous, dude. Think about a person like Amy Schumer, who was I could listen to her specials and like I've done it. I'm cleaning the house. I'll put on Spotify. I'll put on her first album. And
she used to refer to her pussy as the Holland Tunnel because a lot of guys from New Jersey have been inside of it. Like, how is if you make that joke to the kind of the third wave feminists, now they'd crucify you, but she's become their hero.
Right, and she's drank the Kool-Aid too. And then her last special was unwatchable. It was just like dirty, but I'm not funny. And like that's the thing, is like it keeps going back to that thing. It's like now you're not funny anymore. Like once you replace comedy with advocacy, it's not fun anymore. It's like, oh, now I'm watching you try to, like, you're telling me I'm supposed to be laughing, but really I feel like you're pitching a political campaign.
You're lecturing to me.
Right. This isn't funny, and it's weird what you're doing, and I know what you're doing, and I don't even know if you know what you're doing.
I've heard a lot of comedians have actually been complaining about that. Like, they're saying, like, the new thing, like, and no one did it to Obama, I guess, because he was, I have no fucking clue, but with Trump, they said it's become the new, like, for hacks trying to get a cheap laugh out of the audience.
Yeah.
They just go, if they're struggling, they go to a fucking Trump joke. And they're not even good Trump jokes. Like, they're just, it's literally just like needling the other side for no reason. And there's this boy who cried wolfishness about it, that when you do that so much, and it's weird to constantly bring, like, Trump in, but it's like this Venn diagram where half of it really is just about fucking with the other side and being like, yeah, gotcha now. Like you were enjoying that thing, but allow me to ruin it for you.
It's weird where body politics has taken us. Like I find that so fascinating. Like how the hell did we get here? You know what I mean? Like you have feminists championing a pro-Sharia law feminist and a convicted terrorist. It's weird how we've turned.
You should probably because I think you're talking. What's her name? Sarsour.
Yeah, Linda Sarsour, who actually I found out her marriage was arranged. Yes.
Really?
She says, well, they didn't force me to have an arranged marriage.
What a nasty woman. She's the head of the what's the name of the organization? They call it March on Washington or whatever the
the
Women's March.
Women's March, Day Without Women's March.
Oh my God.
Pick a movement.
The day the fucking day of relaxation.
She's a darling of that movement though. Like they love her, and her marriage was arranged. She's pro Sharia law. She defends Saudi Arabia. Swear to God, you know what I mean?
The least feminist country on the planet.
Right. And another woman who was a convicted terrorist was another keynote speaker at that event.
Who's that?
I'd have to look it up, but I promise you I can back this up. If anything, you can put it in the link. I'm not going to do that right now, but I promise you, this is, if you Google, if you fact check me, if I'm full of shit, I'd love you to be, but I've already checked it, so.
Yeah, there actually was, someone actually, there was an op-ed in the Times exactly about this, so you're probably definitely right. It was about how the new feminist movement is now embracing essentially terrorists and extremists and hate mongers just because they are the loudest voices leading the movement. It's fucking ridiculous. The Women's March on Washington was one of the funniest things I've ever watched on TV.
It's ridiculous. And what's funny is like people like, I don't know if you guys know who it is, but Ayaan Hirsi Ali or Majid Nawaz.
She's Ayaan Hirsi Ali. She's Bill Maher loves her. Yeah, on all the time. Just an intelligent, a pragmatist who literally wasn't she a victim of genital mutilation?
Yeah,
and she's like slammed as an Islamophobe.
She's slammed as an Islamophobe. She had her clitoris cut off. She had to flee to Europe, and then from there she came to America, where she spoke out against religion. And when she was attacking Christianity, right? Everybody said she was a darling to the left.
Of course. Now,
for some reason, which is weird, because Sharia law is when you merge church and state, right?
Yeah.
Back in that day, you used to see liberals saying, no, we have a wall between church and state, and Christianity will not take over. But now at the same time, there's people saying we're pro-Sharia law, and they're saying, yeah, Sharia law. Like, whoa, dude. That is literally mending politics and religion in the same thing.
By the way, you can defend Muslims who are being oppressed or having bad lives, and also say that Sharia law is fucking
retarded. It's the fact that we can't even call it retarded, which is so weird. Cause
it is fucking retarded.
It is a gargantuanly bad idea.
It just really is.
It's indefensible, and at the same time, we have to be like, well, we don't agree with it. No, dude. Like the same way I don't agree with Nazism is the same thing that I don't agree with Sharia law. They're both horribly bad ideas.
Well, it's this weirdly American idea that everyone says, I'm entitled to my opinion. Yes, you are entitled to have a very, very shitty opinion.
Right.
But I'm going to explain to you why that opinion is shitty, and it doesn't make me a bigot or a racist to do so. To share a pragmatic view, to challenge an inherently bad idea is not racist. And that's what religion is. It's because we protect religious freedom in this country that people kind of conflate that with any questioning of religion, especially when it's a religion filled with brown people, that to do so is somehow wrong. Because first of all, the Muslims aren't really a minority on this planet. They've been quite fruitful.
Right.
But it's this idea. No, it's a religion. It's still a group of people who believe that there's a magic man in the sky who is an all-seeing and all-knowing and all-powerful deity, and that everyone must submit to his will. I, as a strong individual, can question the validity of that claim without being a bigoted piece of shit.
No, I agree completely. And this is, to me, I know a lot of, and this is weird, because of body politics, because of identity politics, I now get along more with Christians, or just who seem rational and sane, than I do with atheists.
Yeah.
Like, there's atheists that are like championing Sharia law, and I'm like, where did you fall off?
Again, Kafka-esque. How the fuck does that work? I'm an atheist, but hey, this radical religious ideology would be perfect for our small town.
And it's like, oh, look, all these ideas are bad, but they're not all equally bad. Like, there's not, like, people, like, the last one was, like, the Christian who bombed or killed an abortion doctor, and that was, like, a decade and a half ago. It's like...
They'll point to Dylan Roof, the little piece of shit in South Carolina. But that's the thing. Here I am, a privileged white male, saying Dylan Roof is a piece of shit for walking into a historical black church and murdering a bunch of innocent people as they worship. It's that easy.
Right.
We don't need to tie identity to this. I have no qualms about pointing out how big of a piece of shit that kid is.
Yeah. In bad times, like, this is how I feel. Like, these are the people that are, like, the looseliest held, is that when, you know, like, when the pressure gets tight, they're the bubbles that come up first. We're in bad times right now. There's a lot of political fighting. We're in a weird time where, like, our economy is, like, not even recovering. Like, we're still in, like, this weird place where, like, they're saying, like, if you're anywhere between, like, 31 and 30 years old, you've never worked in a thriving economy. So it's like we're fighting right now because of how bad the times are, and these are the people that break first. What's independent of all this is that you have 10,000 new bombings since 2005. So you check me on the numbers, but I know it's definitely 10,000 or more, not less, and definitely not significantly less. But it's like you have this many bombings going on and this many terror attacks from one ideology, and then you've got a singular Dylan Roof because of bad times in a country, and you're like, okay, dude, we're not fighting with the same amount of, like, this is what I hate. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I'm not a relativist in that all opinions are of the same weight. Like, sometimes, yes, you have a right to harbor that opinion, but your opinion's stupid.
I think when you point to Dylan Roof, what you're saying is essentially the exception proves the rule here.
Right. Perfect.
You can look at this is okay. Name the wacko white guys who have done shit on behalf of white guys violently, and there's like that one that you can point right to.
Right.
Naming specific terror incidents involving radical Islamic, it's just mounts. I mean, and again, we keep going back to they have become so attached to this idea of helping the oppressed that they will support the oppressed in their acts of oppression, like throwing gays off of. There's no condemnation.
Right.
Forcing women to have children for ISIS. Just all these horrible fucking things, and it's like, well, but how can we blame Western white men for this?
Right. It's just like they move. This is what it is. It's like for them, it's like this is their version of like a secular religion. You know what I mean? Like white privilege is original sin. Like it's like these ideas are no different than any religion. Like these people that are caught up in this like social purity movement are no doubt personality-wise almost in the same camp as a hardcore Muslim.
Absolutely.
Like there's no difference. Like, you know, they say, well, white people are guilty. Well, why? Well, just because, you know, that's how you were born. You were born with this privilege. Same thing.
I think the common refrain on a lot of college campuses is when it comes to discussions about race, white people should shut the fuck up and listen.
That is horrible.
How is that? Then it's not a discussion about race. It's a lecture about why I'm bad.
Right. It's like you should feel bad about that. Are you serious? Like, what did you do?
Yeah,
what crime did you commit?
Yeah, I'm probably a number of misdemeanors, but usually while intoxicated, and none that could fall under the file of ethnically driven.
Yeah.
But
I
I
think we're
guess
in the same camp, so
yeah,
don't worry.
Exactly, and probably most of the characters, at least on my page, following are as well.
I can imagine.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've seen the comments.
I like the Savage crew.
We have a lot of fun over there at everyone's expense.
It is a lot of fun. You've got one of the good ones, dude.
Dude, it's a blast over there. Especially the people who comment regularly. They are a good fucking time. I wish they weren't spread out around the country, because I'd love to hold at like a VFW hall or some shit, just like a once a year kegger. But we're about an hour 15 minutes here. As we wrap up, are there like a couple just bullet points you want to give, and maybe a couple social media pages to follow?
Oh yeah, sure. So if you follow Saints and Sinners on Facebook, that's how we do my podcast, which is the one that I do. We talk about different things, and sometimes we just we talk politics at a bar, which I know is taboo, but I think that's one of the things that we're trying to overcome.
Yeah. I got to check that. I want to talk to you about how you set that up too after we get off. But yeah,
for sure. And then another thing is that I'm going to be doing this event where I host Fire, but that means I have to market these ideas. I have to create the websites, create the media, somehow learn how to be a graphic designer with my completely slow ass computer, which I don't know how to do. So if you have any qualities, if you have any passion towards these ideas of fighting for free speech, and you have any marketable skill that could actually help, or if you know people that want to get involved and help, send them my way. Send them to Saints, or send them to my personal Facebook page. I'm already tagged in this live video. If you're not on the live video, just look up Diego Adrian on Facebook. I could use a lot of help. And then the last thing that I'm doing is that I'm creating what I want to do is I want to shoot a documentary where I'm gonna need some good translators, both written and audio. Not that I couldn't do it myself, but it's like I want
it's labor intensive, and
I want the best, because I want to do a documentary where I interview political prisoners from Cuba that were tortured and beaten and sent to the gulag for having differing opinions. That's the only crime they committed. And now they would have been released because they offer them political rehabilitation.
Yeah.
Where it's like, just say that communism's good and we'll let you go. And then they put you through a program and you go, yeah, I communism, right?
That sounds exactly like what that guy at Google we were talking about was railing against.
Exactly.
All right, dude, that's fantastic talk. I'm glad this is the first time we've gone live ever, so if you stopped in, we appreciate it very much.
Definitely.
I'll be sharing this all over. I'll have this up on my YouTube page, and this the full podcast should be produced and ready hopefully mid next week on the podcast site, thesavagecrew.libsyn.com, and it'll be all over our social media as well. All right, Holmes.
All right, man.
Nice.